Hello, trail travelers. We are back in the Trail Traveler industrial freezer here in Colorado. It's about 28 degrees in the garage today, and we're finishing up a project having to do with the front bumper. This is the Bestop Highrock 4x4 Granite Series front bumper. I absolutely love this thing. It's super beefy, very stout recovery points. This thing is phenomenal. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the grill out here and we're going to install this Baja Designs Lightbar. So this is going to be a significant light upgrade. We already have the Baja Designs LP4s on the outsides. So when it comes to being in dust or fog, those types of conditions, those LP4s being the ambers seriously cut through that. We also have the off-road town ambers connected to our fog light switch down inside the bumper as well. But sometimes white light is better. When there's clear conditions, the white light is going to be a big improvement. So that, along with the headlights and the high beams, the light bar is going to put out a ton of light. So whether we're in good conditions or we're in foggy, dusty conditions, we're going to be set up with light. Now what we need to do is take out screws on either end, or nuts on either end, to remove this grill that's in here. We've already got our mounts on the light bar itself. We're going to use that same bolt that's in here to put the light bar in place. Then we have the wiring harness. So we have a big hefty wiring harness here. It's got a built-in relay. So all we need to do here is we're going to go to the positive and negative side of the battery. Well, we're going to go to the positive side of the battery and we're going to go to our normal grounding points in the engine bay. That's going to give us the power going through the relay, so we don't have to worry about overloading our auxiliary switches. That goes out to let me find the other end here. That's going to go to the light bar itself with this 3-prong plug. And then we have this very long piece that has a switch on the end. Now this is an illuminated switch, and you can just drill a hole somewhere, pop the switch in place, and you're good to go. We're not going to do that. We're going to use the existing auxiliary switches that are in the Jeep. I've got the tow package, so I have those 4 auxiliary switches. And I already had one wired up for the light bar I had in the old bumper. So really, we're just going to trace that back, find that one, and connect the appropriate wire to it, and the other one is going to go to the ground. A third one on here provides power to light the switch itself, so we don't need that. And really, we're going to probably cut this back, to somewhere around here, because we don't need all of this length going all the way down. So we're going to get the light bar installed, we'll get it wired, and we're going to turn night into day. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Now the 2 bolts that hold this in place are in here with 13mm heads on them. So I'll just use a ratcheting wrench on here to get those off. That should go pretty easy. And there we go. Now this this part should go pretty easy. We're just going to put this in place. Try not to drop all of our bolts. This is actually proving to be a little difficult today because it's so cold in here. My hands are cold, the metal's cold, the bolts are cold, and it feels a lot colder than it should be because it's getting ready to snow. So the humidity is high and it is making this a bit of a challenge on my hands. Yeah, that looks pretty sweet right there. That's going to put out some light. So now we just need to get the wiring done. So now the next step is to get it wired, and it has a plug on one end, and then we have the long wiring harness over here that we're going to deal with. Now we're not going to do it per like instructions because we're going to use the auxiliary switches that are built into the Jeep. So there's 4 switches that come with the tow package, or if you have the aux switches installed. So we're going to use aux number 3. So I have that wiring bundle down here somewhere that I've got to pull up and connect in. So one end is going to connect to the connector on the light bar, and that's going to snake down around there. We have 2 connectors here. These are going to go on the positive side of the battery, and the other one will come over to where we ground everything. It's got a built-in relay. Now, you probably don't need to do it this way. You probably are safe to just wire it directly into the auxiliary switches. They have fuses, they have relays, should be perfectly safe. But I'm going to use the wiring harness because that's how we've been doing it on the last few things. The big LP4s, they have a relay over here. And I'm just trying to keep things, I've got another relay over here. So I'm just trying to keep things isolated and electrically clean as possible. So we will have full power coming from the battery going into the relay. Now, on the other side of this somewhere, there is a 2-way switch. Now, if you don't have the auxiliary switches, you can just snake this in to the passenger compartment, and then you have an on-off switch and it's lit. So very nice switch actually, but we don't need that. And we have 3 wires on here, white, blue, and black. Now I'm going to put a multimeter on it just to be on the safe side, but I'm pretty sure all I need is the black for ground and the white for the positive. The ground will simply go to the vehicle ground, and the white one will go to the auxiliary 3 wire that comes out of here. That should be all we need to do to get this thing wired up. Unfortunately, it's not too bad. It's semi-flexible, but it's also been sitting in the garage, and it was about 15 degrees last night, so it's a little stiff. So I might actually put this in the house for a little bit, let it warm up while I get everything else prepped, get the wire ready to go over here, and see if I get a little bit more flex out of this wire when it's warmed up. So next step is going to be to find my auxiliary wires in here, get one stripped, get a connector on there so that I'm ready to start attaching stuff. So now we've got the wiring harness going down here, underneath over to the light bar, and I've got the positive and negative ones hooked up over here. The only thing left is to take the blue wire from here and connect it to our auxiliary switch here. Now that's the one that's going to take a little connector, and these are the ones I use. They're pretty cool. They're like a bullet connector, but there's a ring of solder in here, and you don't need a soldering gun. We basically just take one side and we slide it in place, and then we take the wire that we're connecting slide it into place so that the wires themselves go through that solder ring. Then you can take any good heat source. And I've got an inexpensive heat gun here. I like using the heat gun because it puts out a clean heat versus like a cigarette lighter. It's going to be all sooty, and I don't like that. It's going to make this all black. It's going to make it hard to see. And then the ends of these are actually shrink wrap too. So as it gets hot, it will seal it from any water, and it'll create a soldered connection in it. So you just kind of work the heat around until you see that solder ring spread out into the wires, and then make sure that the shrink wrap is nice and tight. And now we have a soldered waterproof connection. So now I'm just going to tuck some wires in here, flip the switch, make sure the light comes on. Well, that went pretty smooth. Everything's cleaned up in here. I want to do some more wiring stuff in here, get things cleaned up a little bit more, but getting the light bar up and running, that went pretty smooth. So let's get her wrapped up, and I can't wait to see this thing at night.